heart be acceptable in His sight. He is our strength and our redeemer, and it's in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect tonight's message. All righty. Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hopefully, y'all are doing well. Don't know what this is. Okay, some kind of parking permit for somewhere. Praise God. How's everybody doing? Hopefully, y'all are doing well. Waiting for everybody to come on a little bit. Running a little bit behind, but we made it. We made it. How's everybody doing? As a reminder, as we're waiting to get started, we will be meeting up tomorrow in middle of Georgia. We're trying to meet up about 2 p.m. Eastern New York time. If you would like to be able to join us, if you haven't gotten the word, we will make sure that we know that reach out to us and let us know. I can't put the stuff out in public where we're going to be, but if you'd like to be able to attend, we'd love to be able to have you. Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you. Hello, everybody. How you doing? All right, we're going to get started. How you doing? My wife is on the Audible Maya. As always, please check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She's a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas? How you doing, Minister Tamara? How you doing, Ms. Reed? Neo, Yehuda, and Kayvon. This is Nadine, just a Barbara. Hopefully, y'all are safe. Hopefully, everything went well on the trip and everything. Able to see the family, able to see the sisters, and appreciate y'all doing that. How you doing, Queen Carolyn? Come on, Romac, everybody. We appreciate you, Darius. How are you doing? All righty. All righty. How you guys doing? So today I want to talk about something interesting. Um, something interesting to what was that? What was I gonna say? Oh, okay, it's next week. Oh, okay. All right. Amen. Okay, I guess I heard wrong. Either way, whatever day y'all do, be safe, right? What was I saying? I'm sorry. So this is something that I heard floating around. I finally watched. I won't say the entirety of what this pastor, apostle, I think apostle was talking about. But there's a famous, I guess famous, I don't know, but big time apostle. And he said something that was pretty off putting. Now, a lot of you probably seen a snippet of what he's talking about, but I actually tried to watch about 6 minutes of it to make sure that I had it within context. And what was it? So I'm trying to remember now. Okay, so what was I gonna say? I'm sorry, y'all. Oh yeah. So okay, I'm trying to get back on track. My bad. So basically, yeah, he said that I am more gifted than God, and God knows it. Now I don't worship God. I worship Elohim, and I do not feel like I'm more gifted than Elohim. But he said I am more gifted than God. And while I know that this is, some people might look at this as, hey, he's just trying to get views or clickbait or whatever. It is what it is if that's what you feel. But this is something that obviously had picked up steam, and when I researched it, it obviously had became big all over Africa. And now, it's because of social media, it's become worldwide. Most of the people that I listened to talk about it were African, right? Yeah, you saw it too, babe. How you doing, brother Jermaine? How you doing, Mustard Seed? You saw it 2 minutes of Tamara, yeah. So it was very interesting to say the least. Now I'm gonna break this down because my son and I had conversation. Well, my wife's son and I had conversation about this together. So I'm gonna break it down like I broke it down to my 8-year-old child. Forgive me if I offend thee by doing so, but I will break it down like I break it down for my 8-year-old child, right? Or like I did, right? But first things first, I want to make sure we get proper context. So when you listen to him, this is his explanation. Although, as my wife said, he probably was just trying to be very provocative, right? And trying to get clickbait and stuff like that. But basically, what his explanation, if we be fair about it, because many people haven't watched the whole thing, they just watch like the little clip, and usually people kind of look to react, like when he says, "I'm more gifted than God" and stuff, and they make these fake interviews that they're doing with him. So it's become this, almost meme like post. But his context, right? How you doing, Sister Betty? What his context is basically this, is namely this. He says, "Hey, um, God," because I'm gonna just say it the way he did. He said basically God can't be gifted because in order for him to be gifted, who gifted him? So that's his context. And people are talking about this all over the world. And so I figured, hey, if people are kind of twisting this, or you hear somebody come with something, we might as well address this, right? Sometimes things that go viral become people's new philosophy on life. How you doing, Sister Sage? How you doing, Sierra? How you doing, Brad? Right? Yeah, you were lost when you read the title. Yeah, so that's why it's in quotation marks. I didn't say I am more gifted than God, right? Right. So it's not my quote, or it's not my words. That's why I got quotation marks there, right? But this is what the person said, right? Maybe I need to edit the name of this to discussion over what somebody said, colon, I am more gifted than God. Maybe we should say that, right? But this guy said, right. Matter of fact, while we're on, I'll just go ahead and do that because I don't want a bunch of people being like, "Oh, see, Kofi done lost it. You out here saying I'm more gifted than God. I told y'all." He's just like all these other pastors. Let me say discussion about. Sorry, I'm holding the phone with one hand and typing with the other. Hold on. About what an apostle. And if you notice, everything I'm putting on there is lowercase too. So what an apostle said. And then we'll put colon. Alrighty. And let's save it. All right. So Kofi did not say this. There's an apostle out there that said this. I'm on. How you doing, DB? Right. So he said, right. So he said, this apostle said, I am more gifted than God. Now, to be as fair as possible, how you doing, Sister Nadine? To be as fair as possible, right? To be as fair as possible, let us set up context. So contextually, when you go and listen to them, and you listen to more than just a little snippet that they put out there on social media, what you would discover is, according to him, God cannot be gifted, right? I'm not talking about Elohim for sure, but hey, let's go with what he said. God cannot be gifted. Thank you for the love. How you doing, Sister Tracy? He says, God cannot be gifted because if God is gifted, then somebody had to gift God. So therefore, he says that God really, if anything, has one gift, and that's to be God. But when it came to me, he gave me, this is what the guy said, right? I'm quoting the apostle. He said that God gave me multiple gifts. So when it comes to the gifts, God and I have, or there's no competition. God cannot out compete me in gifts because he's given me multiple gifts, while he basically either only has one, or you can consider him to have none because nobody has given him any gifts. So how can he be gifted if he has none? All right. I don't know if that makes sense. And then, right, but that's what he said. And then I hope I made sense out of what he said. I tried to fix it for you. And then he went to the extent of saying, right, he didn't just stop there. He then went to the extent of saying what behind that. He said, not only that, excuse me, not only that, but then he made it a point to say that God has his gifts and all those things. I'm sorry, he has more gifts than God. And then he said, the reason why people can't have this conversation is because they're too religious. But if you come out of religion, then you can actually speak about God in these terms and speak about the truth in these terms and realize what you have, and also realize what he as the apostle has. That's what the apostle claimed. Okay. So now that we dealt with that, that's the comprehension. That's what he's saying. He's saying God can't be gifted. He fixed it. Now, really, for real, he probably realized how crazy he sounded. How you doing, King? He probably realized how crazy he sounded and said, "Let me fix this real quick." And he wasn't really able to fix it, or people didn't care about him fixing it because he made a huge statement and didn't make sure that he was teaching in front of it. As far as the context that I saw, I didn't just watch the 60 seconds or the clips or all the memes or all the videos that have been made. Like I actually watched what he said. He didn't, and you can even see him pausing because he knows what he's about to say is dangerous territory. Like you see him do this for like 13 seconds, like, and then he finally comes out. I am more gifted than God, right? And then here's the part that really got me. He said, I am more gifted than God, and God knows it. And when I heard that, I was I was like, oh wow. All right. Like I guess it's as bad as what it really like. I thought they were cutting the stuff up. They ain't had to cut nothing up. That thing was sitting up there and it was exactly like that. So I said, okay. So I must explain it the way that my 8-year-old got it explained to him today when we had the conversation. How you doing, sis? How you doing, Auntie Mary? How you doing, Sister Curry? I still messing up your name. Um, right. I'm gonna catch your stuff so I can make sure I hear you pronouncing it right. Um, so this is what I want to say about it. Everybody said everything they have to say about it. Everybody said all this stuff about it, right? Thank you for the love, appreciate it. So this is what I'd like to say. Okay, this is what I'd like to say about it. And really, this is not my opinion. I just wanted, so we set this, we showed you what he said, or we didn't show you. We told you what he said. Matter of fact, maybe we should just let you listen to what he said. Oh, you know what? I still got bad signal. If it allows me, I will try to make sure you can listen to what's said. But I have a really bad signal. I think I might have to get my hotspot fixed because I've been having bad issues with this for a week now. Yeah, as we continue to travel, this is not the time that I need a hotspot acting crazy. Yeah, okay. We have a problem with it. So I can't really play it with everybody being able to hear it at the same time. And so I'm gonna leave it where it is right now. You guys have probably heard it, like I said, but the long story short, the context of it is that he said that he is this apostle said he is more gifted than God. He is more gifted than God because God has no gifts, because somebody would have had to given him a gift, and therefore he is more gifted than God, and God knows it, and there is no competition. And the only reason why you would disagree with him is because you are too religious, and therefore you cannot have an actual conversation about God. That is this apostle's reasoning, and that is what he is reckoning. How you doing, Sister Crystal? That's what he said. So that being said, I want to talk about it like I talked about it with my son. So my son literally used the word. He was flabbergasted. He said I was flabbergasted by that. Right? My son's. It's so funny when you see your children's comprehension and word usage and etymology and things continue to grow. Right. But he said he was flabbergasted. He was sitting right here, like he was in the video last night. Right. And so he he told me he's flabbergasted. So I explained the same thing. I said, well, this is what the apostle said, and he's trying to say this. And to be honest with you, it kind of sort of makes sense. But I said, here's the problem. So, and I got rid of what I use as our prop. So I just use something else as a prop. I don't know what I have in here that I can use. Right. Let's use the Bible. Right. Or let me just use this thing that's inside the Bible. Right. So basically, this is his teaching tools, some of his teaching tools, right? So he said, he goes, so I go, hey, what he's saying is that Elohim can't be gifted because he's given the gift. So I handed him the gift. I'll hand you the guys the gift, right? I'm gonna do exactly what I did with him. So he says, because Elohim is gifted, he gives you the gift. So since you have the gift, he's saying nobody gave Elohim the gift. Therefore, since nobody gave him the gift, he can't be gifted, right? I'm sorry, but you say, babe, I would ask him what gifts he has that make him more gifted. Define gifted. Yeah. Very great question, right? But I told him, since Elohim has the gift, let's just imagine that Elohim. I said, I'm not even going to pretend that I'm Elohim. I told him this. I said, I'm going to be your father and you're going to be my son, right? So I said, as your father, I'm going to hand you this, right? Okay. And so he took it. You guys have it, right? So you took it. This is exactly what I told him. I said, all right. So since you have this gift now, right? He's saying that I can't be gifted. I said, however, here's the problem. I said, who gave you the gift? Right? So he said, you, Dad, you gave me the gift. I was like, okay, so the gift was made or purchased. In this case, let's say I purchased it, but really, if I was like, yeah, I would have made this, right? So let's say I made this. I made the gift, and then I gave it to you. So who does the gift belong to at first? And he said, it belongs to you. You made it. I said, all right, so here it is now. So I said, whose gift is it now? He said, it's mine. And then I said, also, too, I added real quick in there. I said, it also, right, is mine, and I've given it to you. Oh, but what I didn't add on to him, let's add this. What I didn't say to him, let's add this on for you, is if I gave you this gift, and I said that you and I are supposed to be as one, or I said you're going to be a steward over this gift. It's not yours to have, right? It's yours to keep. You see the difference? I made this gift, but it's not yours to have. How you doing, Sister Kaylee? Or Kaylee, excuse me. It's not yours to have, right? But it's yours to keep. So is it yours, or are you a steward over the gift? Right? And this is when we have apostles or pastors or teachers or preachers who are out of pocket. This is my problem with the whole thing, more than all the other stuff that's shock value. My problem with that, how you doing, Minister Joseph? Yeah, you're holding the gift temporarily, right? And by the way, Yah is coming back looking for you to make a return on his investment, right? The man with 5 talents, 3 talents, 5 talents, 2 talents, 1 talent, right? I'm gonna give you the gift, but I'm coming back to see what you did with it. So it's not your gift. I've taught you how to use it. I've shown you how to use it. I've blessed you with it. I let you stay around me long enough to see how I would use it and what I would do with it. Now I'm going to leave, and I'm expecting a return. That's right. You're supposed to give the gift out. Yeah. Amen. Right. So this apostle has the wrong mindset, because in his mindset, the gift belongs to him. And now he's trying to get in competition. He says it's no competition. Right. He says, I am more gifted than God, and God knows it. You're getting what's that old saying? Your arms are too short. You got them Tyrannosaurus Rex arms. Yeah, egos come in the room, and you can hear it. So that's what I got more so than anything else. I know it was shock value. I know it was straight up wrong. I know we could say, but see, I wanted to. Yeah, he's trying to do something. Yeah, a dangerous game. He's trying to box with God. He's gonna lose, or box with Elohim. He's gonna lose every time. You can't do it. You can't win. You're not gonna win that fight. I'm sorry, Apostle. If this ever reaches you, I don't know if it will, but if it ever reaches you, I'm sorry, Apostle. You can't win that fight. How you doing, Sister Alien? Right? The one who created the gift is more gifted because it came out of him. You hear what I'm saying? The one who created the gift, thank you for the love. The one who created the gift is more gifted because the gift came out of him. So when you hear that and everybody's laughing and joking and stuff, and everybody's like laughing at this person's expense, but I told my wife, here's the danger of it. We're on social media. And this is where the apostle doesn't get it. He's so busy trying to be provocative and make people show up to a service, or make people talk back to him, make people come against him, so that because he knows that even bad press is great press. In the midst of it, though, here's the problem is that I said, let's say there's an 80-20 rule. I said, let's say 80% of the people are dogging them. I said, do you not know there's going to be 20% of people that see this video, and now they're going to use this as an excuse to say that, yeah, I didn't need an apostle to tell me that. I didn't need a pastor to tell me that. I didn't need a Christian to tell me that. I didn't need to follow the way to tell me that. I didn't need an Israelite to tell me that. I am greater than God. I am God. You know how many people are going to use that now? You are supposed to be in the kingdom. And this is what I said earlier. Remember we were talking about today? Woe unto you. That dragon speech. Come on now. Got the horns of a ram or of a sheep, but what? The voice of a serpent. Woe unto him. He about to curse himself and anybody attached. Anybody who's under that brother, if you hear this, I'm telling you right now, anybody who's under that brother, be careful. And the guy who's interviewing him is problematic as well, because the guy who's interviewing him tells him like, hey, you know that you know who you're trying to reach, right? Like he got quiet when he said, I am more gifted than God. The guy, everybody in the room got quiet. Like you could hear people moving. You could hear the guy was talking back and forth with him. He was interviewing, and the next thing you know, he just gets quiet. He just shuts up. It's like straight quiet. Like it's straight. That's what you hear in the video. Like it goes straight quiet. And then the person's like, we're still on video, Apostle, right? And then at the end of it, the guy, and then they try to be clever. They tried to go to somebody help me. Actually, I got my Bible here, but I'm in a really weird position. If somebody can type this up for me, I would greatly appreciate it, because I know it doesn't look like it on here, but this position that I'm in is really difficult for me to turn to my Bible. Can somebody turn to James chapter 1, verse 17? I believe that's where they went. I'm going to try and get there, but I can't really keep the Bible open there. Yeah. If somebody doesn't mind, if you can go to James chapter 1 and verse 17 for me, if you could type it up. Oh, you said I would say he was delusional, but he knows he's lying to get clout. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, I was talking to somebody today. Not talking, I was listening to some video today, and they were talking about delusion, and then somebody said there's different types of delusion. Oh, my wife and I were talking about something. I don't know. We'll see if that actually pops up in this today. That might be the Holy Spirit brought it to me. Can somebody put that up for me, James 1:17? I'm really having a tough time. Like, I can hold it, but you guys will not be able to see me on one of the devices. I'll try to see if I can read it. Oh, okay, somebody put it on there. Thank you. Every great day, yeah, that's exactly what they use. I was right. Thank you so much. So that's where it says every righteous or every good, but every righteous and every perfect gift is from above and cometh down to the Father. The person read this to him. Cometh down to the Father of lights, with whom, okay, reading slight verse, that's fine. With whom is no variableness, neither shadow of turning, right? So the guy reads this out and he says, see, this is what the apostle says. It's not what Kofi says. This is what the apostle did, right? So it says, he says from there, he says, okay, so see, if every gift has to come from above, so if Elohim has gifts, then who gifted him? This goes back to that old debate thing that Kent Hovind nailed to the ground. Powerful apologists in the kingdom. He was in a debate with non-believers who happen to be scientists, and the scientist said, explain God to me, because how do you explain God without explaining time, space, and matter? They said, if there's no time, right? They said, how does God exist and he's not in time? How does he exist, right, not within matter? And how does he exist within space? I can't prove God because I can't see him in time, space, and matter. How you doing, Shabbos? And this is what the mindset of the person of Dr. Kent Hovind, minister, I think, or possibly pastor at this point, but Dr. Kent Hovind said. He says, well, he says, in order to assume, right, that Elohim, or that Yah is cannot exist because you can't find him in time, space, and matter. He said that's not necessarily so, but even if that's what we're going to do and make that assumption, he says the problem that you have is that you have time, space, and matter, assuming that the one who created it fits inside of it, right? Yeah, our minds can't fully comprehend it, but I love the way he said it. He said, I love the way you said it as well. I'm just saying, I love the way he said it, because he says, if you have time, space, and matter, he said, imagine that there's a computer. He said, now there's a desktop computer. You put it on the desk, you can utilize it, you can use it, right? And he says, and so he says, time, space, and matter, or this computer is on a desk. He says the person that created the computer does not exist inside the computer. It has the handiwork of the person that made the computer. It kind of thinks sort of like the person who made the computer. It operates in a manner. It can even be used by the person that made the computer, but the person who made the computer does not fit inside of the computer, right? The person that made it does not fit inside the computer. Therefore, if you're looking for the person who made the computer, you do not look inside the computer. It can even have melanin nowadays in the chips of the computer, but you cannot look inside the computer for the person who created the computer. You have to look outside of the computer for it. So he said, if I try to put him in time, he's eternal. He doesn't fit. I won't find him in time necessarily, right? Time is his handiwork, but I don't find him in time. He said, if I find him in space, then or if he had to be come after space, right? Then who created space? And what if he's just too big to fit inside of space? He says, and then when you talk about matter, he's somebody who created matter. You're asking for him to be something that or fit into something that he created, and you that's not what you guys look for. Right? Time, space, and matter, right? The person who creates it does not fit inside of it. Right? And it's the same thing when the guy's talking about the gifts. He's trying to say, well, how can God be gifted if he hasn't been given a gift by somebody else? Therefore, he can't be gifted. He gives out the gift. But as I said earlier, if I create the gift and I give it unto you all, right, and I say, keep over it, watch it, be a steward over it, it doesn't mean that I didn't create the gift. Therefore, the gift still comes from me. And if I give a gift, now watch this. If I hit you with the Oprah thing, right? If Jehovah says, you get a gift, and 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 you get a gift, right? If he hits us with that, then that means all the gifts came from him. If he's watch this, we talk about this word all the time. What is a universe? Universe, a verse, spoken sentence. The universe is a single spoken sentence. So anything that is in the universe had to come out of what he spoke. There is no gift without him speaking it into existence, period. Right? There is no gift. So when this apostle is busy trying to talk about this, even from the place that he's coming from, sure, it's some of it, I hate to use this term, the word of Yah, but it is what it is. It's some of the stuff he's saying tongue in cheek as far as he knows. There's going to be something that's going to get a lot of views for him, sure. Which is a terrible thing to do, to change the word up so that you might be able to get some play from people. And to be honest, he might be so much of that 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 6 and 7 leader that we've learned about, to where there might be so many people that bow down to whatever he says, like in 2 Timothy chapter 4, and they lean their ears to fables now, that he might be at a point where he believes he can almost get away with anything he wants. Yeah, puffed up. See, one of the things you got to be careful about is, where Adolf Hitler, right, was the biggest god, and actually that would be Germanic. You could talk about that, a Germanic word. He was the biggest god in the world. He was the biggest god in the world from those who were in the room with them, even when they saw everything falling apart. And what I mean by that is, these people's whole livelihoods were attached to him. When Hitler went down, everybody goes down. If Hitler goes down and they get caught, they're going to be offed. How you doing, Pastor Hamilton? If Hitler goes down, all these people, they're going to lose. They're going to look bad. Right? So some of the best people there have to make him their God, because at a certain point you worship something so much, even if you know it's not real, after a certain time, your worship, your extreme respect is attached to this person so much that if this person doesn't make it, you're not going to make it. Now you're trying to hang on to this person. Only somebody like that, he's in a room with people who are so afraid to let him down, but also too, what does that do? That puts somebody in a place where nobody says you might be wrong, where nobody can challenge you at all, where nobody can ever ask a question. I'm not saying that you should let everybody just walk over you and say whatever they want, but look, it's all right. It's all right sometimes if somebody comes on and especially if they're part of SOC and they've been around for a while, it's all right for people to be able to make sure that they asking questions and doing certain things and being like, hey, hold up, I didn't know that this was what we signed up for, even if we thought we were clear or whatever, right? It's all right for people to do that. How you doing, Sister Monica? As long as they're doing it, once again, not just for the sake of doing it. You said, reminds me of a joke a Hindu guru told Mike Tyson. In short, God makes man, then man advances in science to create man from dirt and tells God he is like him. And God says, next time, use your own dirt. I remember that now. Yeah, right. Allah made man. Man says, I'm going to make artificial man, AI. And now all of a sudden, they say, I'm going to make some kind of man. See, look, we did something. And he says, okay, next time, make your dirt from scratch. I like that. Right. But I just wanted to talk a little bit about that tonight. I didn't know which way we're going to go. We're either going to talk about that or we're going to talk about some an interesting thing. I haven't watched it yet, so maybe I should watch it. We might have to do it on Patreon only because it's going to be very in people's faces. Maybe we'll set up something specifically next week for like a certain time. Wednesdays is normally my day up, and maybe I'll just make sure that I have nothing at all on the Wednesday, and maybe right after the live session, for those of you who might want to go into, because we usually go, hours, and usually the ministerial staff doesn't go as long as I do. So maybe after whoever's, you know what, ministerial staff, when we had the meeting, because everybody wasn't knowing, I didn't even think about it. We didn't give, okay, well, I'll do this next Wednesday coming up. We didn't give assignments up for the next couple months, so I'll do this next Wednesday coming up. So this next Wednesday coming up, I will do the live session, and then those of you who would like to stay on or attend with us, we'll do something very specific and watch. We'll do like a watch party for those of you who can. I don't know how we'll do. We have to figure it out. Maybe we'll make this like a special thing. We'll do this, and maybe it can be like Patreon only. I'm trying to think how we'll do it. Maybe we can do something where I have to watch the video because right, and I think it's a documentary, so I don't know how long it is, but we'll try to see if I can write notes on it and stuff, and maybe we'll do like an extra early riser thing on a Wednesday or something, and we'll come together and we'll just do it either on Zoom or do it on Patreon, or we'll give everybody the link so that you can come on YouTube, but it'll also be recorded on Zoom. We'll do something like that. Because some of the stuff on there is like really deep. It's basically, long story short, about people who are post-op, if you know what I mean, and some of the things that they say about being post-op and how they feel about it, especially years down the road, and some of them that are really frustrated and upset about some of the stuff that they weren't told. And I'll leave it at that. How you doing, Sister Tori? How you doing, Sister Keita, if I didn't say so already? Right. So just in case, and Sister Keita, it's been a while since we had our convo, so if you don't mind, I'm gonna be busy tomorrow, Sunday, Monday, but maybe Tuesday or Thursday, depending on which one you're available. Maybe shoot me a text, let me know when you're available. We can get started again. That's because it's been like 2 weeks now, 3 weeks. Sorry about that. I meant to say something about that earlier today. If I don't say it on the line, I'm not gonna say what it's about, but we're supposed to keep talking about what we started talking about. So yeah, so I apologize. But yeah. So yeah, maybe Tuesday, Thursday next week. We got family time and stuff like that. I'm up until basically Tuesday in the rising. So right after the session, I'll try to make sure that I catch up with stuff. So if y'all want to contact and get in touch with us then. But yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk about tonight. If there's any questions, comments, or concerns, I guess we can open it up real quick. I don't want to leave anybody hanging. Let's not quench the spirit. And Sister Tori, we need to set up time to talk to you about your question. I did do some research on it. I do need to do more research on it to make sure, because you actually brought up something that's and something you asked me about the first time that I said I was going to get back to you when I realized as I was studying. I was like, she asked me about something else before. So we'll make sure that we get those things going in our life coaching stuff and in our questioning and things. Got a few more. So yeah, any questions, comments, or concerns though about the stuff as far as this apostle who's out there saying that I'm more gifted than God, or just in general, maybe you have something that you guys want to talk about or want to listen to or something like that. And I haven't forgotten. I don't know if we'll do it tomorrow, or maybe really early or something like that. In the rising, or maybe like not during the day, I guess. But I have not forgotten that we are. Um, that we're going to try to do more stuff where we're listening to stuff online, and especially even sometimes just scrolling through the little YouTube shorts links, seeing what pops up and seeing what's popping in people's heads. So I haven't forgotten about that. If you guys don't have any questions, comments, and concerns, maybe we can end with a little bit of that, have a little bit of fun, and then we'll call it an evening, take our leave. I got to finish packing up so I can be ready for the trip tomorrow, and then we'll be on the road. And y'all pray for us. If everything goes well, we'll be on the road, be stationary for a couple of days after the meetup, and then early in the week next week, before the fireworks and everything, we prayerfully make it to where the land is, and we'll be able to look at it and take pictures and video and all that stuff and share it with everybody, and we'll share it with those especially who are YLP 83 and doing that work and putting that stuff in, and then hopefully that will be the beginning of us finishing up contracts and stuff like that. But if there be nothing else, I'm gonna let a couple of these. Oh yeah, YouTube's not even working. My signal's bad. So okay, the YouTube short's not even gonna work. But yeah, so I guess we'll leave it there. If there be no questions, comments, or concerns, that's all I really was led to share tonight. Was just I kept seeing this pop up, and Holy Spirit was like, we should deal with that and talk about that to make sure that everybody kind of sees what's going on, especially because something that you think is a joke, sometimes people begin to take really serious. So it is what it is. But thank y'all for being on. We appreciate you. If there be nothing else, doesn't look like there's anything else. Strong delusion. Eating laws need some guidance. Which part of the eating laws? Which part? Because there's a whole bunch of eating laws, right? So which one systematically? I'm gonna roll with you. I just want to make sure that we're specific. Eating laws, the dietary laws. Which laws? Which ones, or what are you going through, or is there something that you need medicated for your body? What food can we eat together? But as a body of believers, many foods. We're not supposed to have pork. Where some people go to the place, I won't even say some, but whatever, they're supposed to not mix honey and milk. Something else that the Bible talks about, you're not supposed to actually have lamb or goat and goat's milk, right, together, right, because that's basically having like the mother and the child together. So some people will go as far as to say like you shouldn't have you shouldn't have like beef and cheese, like hamburger and cheese, because that's like basically the milk and the cow itself, or sometimes the milk. I guess that's more veal, right? If it's the baby, or is that lamb? I can't remember. But stuff like that. But pretty much we should be able to eat together. There's certain times, obviously, that we're not supposed to have leaven in the home. And certain times that we should have unleavened bread. That's not for every holy day, by the way, but every Shabbat, usually we're going to do unleavened bread. But we should be able to eat, as long as the stuff that is within the dietary restrictions, we should have no problem eating those things together. You said, what are the foods to prepare? Foods that you prepare separately? I think same thing. You can pretty much mix and match whatever you like. Okay, thank you, Sister Nathan. You can pretty much mix and match whatever you like. As long, so there's, I don't know. Maybe we can talk about it more. If I can remember, I can try to slide into it tomorrow, because I don't have like a list, which I would be more comfortable with, having a list of scripture and certain things we can go to, and this boom, 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 boom. So maybe we can bring it up in the next couple of days or something like that. If you give me a moment, or next time I'm able to reach out to you, maybe we can have that conversation. But I guess there's specific ones. Sister Nadine could put some scripture up there for us tonight. But for the most part, you should be fine with almost 100% of what you're making. But I know we want to be 100%. Some things too. Also, always remember one thing that I always talk about: that you're in the land of your captivity. So there are some things that, like in the land of your captivity, it's not going to be as easy to follow certain restrictions or dietary laws and things of that nature, um, because of like being the situation you're in and some of the stuff that you're buying, and especially if it's processed, you're getting stuff that's not what you think it is, anyways. But we can get more into that, I think, at another time, just because I don't have the stuff in front of me, and to be honest, um, I'm not 100% sure exactly what you 100% mean when you say like mixed. Are you talking about like, can I cook this fruit with this fruit? Are you talking about, can I put this vegetable with this vegetable? Are you saying, can I make beef and mix it with this ingredient? Like, I'm not sure. Is it like, if you want me to go like every single law? And then also too, if we be honest, there's some stuff that we look at as kosher that's not necessarily kosher because the Bible describes it, but it's kosher through the Talmud. So if it's like Talmudic, then that might not have anything to do with whether we can do it or not. So it's kind of like a lot of stuff. Hello, how you doing? Thanks for being on, Brother Allen. Hopefully you're staying safe out there. So yeah. Hey, how you doing, Sister Beverly? But yeah, so we can hit those things. I don't have the stuff up in front of me right now, but we'll yeah, okay, so yeah, we'll try to do a study of that. Maybe give me, because tomorrow we have a shortened live session because we have this podcast. Minister Shantae is going to be teaching us at 10 a.m. Eastern, so I'll make sure I'm out of her way. But maybe on Sunday, maybe on Monday, it's one of those days we can try and get it in there and make sure that we talk about it in more depth, because that's something I kind of have to, if I really want to go into, if you're talking about just an overall question, I mean, that's something we could probably do teachings on, because not only should we know what foods to eat and not to eat, and what to mix and what not to mix, or what days we can have this and what days we cannot, we also have to look into, we're going to be honest about it, why is it that God told us that, right? It's not just as simple as that pig is unclean, it's foul, but like, what are the things that a pig, that swine actually introduces, right? What is it, especially, are we talking about, there's pigs that people had in pens, there's also swine and pig that was wild, like a boar, right? Like when it says don't cast pearl before swine, it's not talking about the swine that's in the pig pen. It's talking about the swine that really doesn't have human interaction and will rip you into pieces, right? Yeah, pig flesh is too close to our own, causes autoimmune deficiencies or diseases, excuse me, yeah, things like that. So there's a lot of stuff. Oh, seeing pigs, yeah, at the farm you saw pigs today. And how you doing, Sister Toya? Yeah, so it's a lot of different things, like what's the difference between, and this is more sacrifice than eating, but what's the difference between a red heifer and a heifer? Why do you sacrifice a red, like even sacrifice, right? Because some things are supposed to be totally considered. So anything, like you're not even supposed to, uh, so depending, there's sometimes you make a sacrifice even, and you're not supposed to eat anything or touch anything that's supposed to be sacrificed outside of, forgive my strong language, like outside of bloodletting or things like that. But also, like when you're doing that stuff or whatever, let's say that we're having Passover, right? And we still do this, even though it's not necessarily something we have to do, but we do it for remembrance. Do this in remembrance of me, but also we remember what happened at Kemet and when our people come out. So whatever, and some of you actually did. I actually have pictures. I meant to put it up. I asked some of you if I could put your pictures and videos up. We actually have people who followed or who did this with us this year, and it was really special to them. And this year it actually was like miraculous for us. Um, so whatever we don't eat will burn, right? Because whatever you offer, and your hashpah is supposed to be the sacrifice. So if the bread is his body and the wine is his blood, then everything's supposed to be a sacrifice. So whatever you don't eat is a sacrifice. So whatever you or whatever you're eating is a sacrifice. So whatever you don't eat, a sacrifice is always supposed to be totally consumed. This is why last year in 2022, when we did not Pentecost, when we did Passover together in South Carolina, um, we took all the stuff and we put it in the trash can, that was the best we could, because with the hotel we weren't going to get in trouble for burning stuff. But normally what my family and I do is we'll take whatever was put at the table, not everything that was bought, but everything that was put at the table to be a sacrifice, whatever does not get ate, right? A sacrifice is always supposed to be totally consumed. So we take it outside, we'll make a little fire pit somewhere, and we put it on fire. This year, where we had it, the stuff that we even put with it, that was on some of the stuff that was on the table, should not have burned. It was actually even wet and everything outside. It was somewhat rainy or drizzly, and yet when we put the stuff outside, everything burned. And not only did it burned for a long time, and it was like consumed, like almost like y'all was pleased. Right? Because I tell people this all the time. I'm not saying you should do this, but people do this. Like, if somebody really wanted to, you could do sacrifices still. You just don't have to. It's pointless. I won't say pointless, but really, why do it if Yehoshua is the ultimate sacrifice? But when it comes to Passover, we like to make sure stuff is completely consumed, and so if we're able to, we like to burn it. And so it was really, really, really awesome. It was really, really cool to see. And a bunch of people also burned it this year or whatever. So we saw a lot of people burn, take pictures or take video of their stuff and send it to us, where they burned the sacrifice. Isn't the meat are to, I'm sorry, what were you saying, Sister Monica? Is the meat not to unite? I think you meant something else. United by the priest? To be used by the priest? Aren't you supposed to unalive by the priest? So, yes, if you were doing a sacrifice, once again, if you were eating something for a meal, a butcher could take care of it, or a lot of times the family would be the butchers, right? But a butcher could take care of it, and then whatever was left over, though, had to be completely consumed. So if you start eating something, so yeah, if you had a sacrifice and it was specifically for sacrifice only, then there's certain things that, yes, nobody touches it but the priest, right? Or people might bring it as an offering or a tithe, and then the priest therefore touches it from then on. But if you're talking about, if somebody's cooking something and somebody gets ready to eat it, they start eating, and then there's stuff left, and it's supposed to be like Passover. You still got lamb, and you have the cracker, or the lamb, and the unleavened bread, and the in your wine, and the bitter herbs and things like that. That's a sacrifice. So technically, we're supposed to make sure that is burned, right? That would have been what we would have done. And still, nowhere does it say we should have stopped doing that, for real. But it should have been burned. Anything that was going to be sacrificed to Yah, it was supposed to be consumed. So that's why we consume it, or make sure it's consumed. If we don't consume it with our bodies and there's still something left, you're supposed to make sure that it's consumed. Bare minimum, all thrown away. But once again, we come from like another culture where like people try to get leftovers, or people try to have juice wafer cups and all that stuff and all that. And that's not none of that's really there, But anything that was on the table, technically, right, that was supposed to be in sacrifice. So I'm not saying if you had like a wine glass for your wine, you throw the wine glass in the fire. I'm saying the wine gets poured out, the lamb, if there's any, would be put into the ground, or whatever you're using as a pit, all that stuff, and you put it in there, and then the food should be consumed. It should be burned, right? Or bare minimum, it should all be thrown away. We would say nowadays, if you don't have the ability to do that. So, but yeah, like I said, that's what I'm saying. There's a bunch of stuff that goes with it when you're even talking about dietary laws. Like, we'd have to figure, like, when if we're making an overall thing, that's like a whole. I would try to break it down in 30 minutes within one of our other days coming up. So I'll try to do that. But there's a lot to dietary laws. It's not as simple as just don't eat this, or here's just a list of stuff you can make, and here's a list of stuff you can only make on a certain day, and here's a smaller list of this. It's like every single thing has a reason, just like every word of Yah has a reason, every character of Yah has a reason, right? He said that's why your family would eat fresh food and would all consume the same day, nothing left over. So yeah, so some of that. Let's see. I'm sorry, James 1:1, or that's your name, James 1. Exodus 12. 108. Okay, and they shall eat the flesh in that night, roast with fire and unleavened bread, and the bitter herbs they shall eat it. Eat not of it raw or sodden at all with water, but roast the fire, his head and his legs, and the pertinence thereof, and ye shall let nothing of it remain until the rising, and that which remaineth until the rising ye shall burn with fire. Yep. There we go. I'm not sure about the verse. I don't I'm having, is it verse 108? Or whichever verse, but yeah, thank you. Exodus chapter 12 talks about that it should be burned, right? And like I said, then thank you for that, right? So just like I was saying earlier, we talk about even that, right? We don't even think about that as a dietary law, but the Bible says, yeah, like once you finish, got to be consumed. Yeah, it says Exodus 12, 108. I think it might be a different verse than 108, but Exodus 12 is where you're looking for. But anyways, though, yeah, great question. So I'll try to remember, Sister Monica, if I can, to try and prepare for something like that. And we can try and go over it another day, right? But there's a lot. That's what I was saying when you say which stuff can and can't. It depends on the context. It depends on when. It depends on the day. It depends on how. It depends on a lot of stuff, right? And then once again, the land of our captivity piece kind of prevents some things or whatever, but there's certain things that we still probably could do, etc. Said, is Jacob a Gentile? If you're talking about Jacob, the actual like Yashra'el, the one who became Israel, he would not be. I mean, I guess so. He would not be a Gentile, but I don't know the context in which you asked the question. If you don't mind, like because put it like this: if somebody tries to say that Jacob's a Gentile, just period, he's the first. He's Israel, and then everybody who's an Israelite comes out of him. Therefore, he can't be a Gentile. Now, what some people will try to do is say that, and so I don't know if you're talking about the branch of Jacob, or are we talking about one of the branches of Jacob, or the tribes, if you will. I don't know if we're talking about. I don't know what else, but I don't know. Like it depends on where we're going with that. I don't know like exactly where you're going with that, but I like if you're the only way I can even see it being something that's connected is if you're talking about Esau being his brother, them sharing blood that way, and Esau becoming somebody who was going to be under certain Canaanites, those certain Canaanites who also eventually become mixed in and become known as Gentiles, right? Even get caught up when you look at the book of Jasher, you'll discover that they even become some of the people who are known as Britannia before what we call Britain is known as Britannia as well. So the only way I can even make that work, kind of, sort of, is for to say like, okay, well, it's possible that some of Esau's bloodline over time, eventually mixes back in, especially with the northern kingdom when most of the Israelites would have left the 9.5 or 9 tribes that had Levites with them would have left the northern kingdom, and you would have had a mix of some people. So you had that possibility, and then you have some people that mixed into the Gens or the Gentiles, right? Which means that so now you have Edomites and people of Esau who are mixing with different things that now has made its way over to people who we call Gentiles, who are somewhat mixing every once in a while with Jews. Then I guess we can talk about that. Yeah, so everybody's been saying that lately. I'm trying to. You said doesn't Gentile mean non-Jew? Gentile is something that's specific. No, Gentile is a group of people. I've even heard some people try to say, and that's something that I've been hearing that's been new. And we talked about this the other night because one of our ministers asked the question. We actually answered the question for them. We did a whole live session on who are the Gentiles. We came out of the book of Jasher, chapter 19, right? When you look at Jasher, chapter 19, I believe we did verses 1 through 31. Look at the bloodline. You'll see who a Gentile is, and you'll see. Well, I know her question was, who is an Edomite? Who is Esau? And then we were able to show how Esau connects to the Gentiles. So there is this weird thing that's been popping up now. And if we know what Romans 11 says, right? I don't know when this started, so I have to get more context on it. But I had somebody else who called me and was like, "Hey, Pastor Kofi, I was talking to somebody, and they gave me like 5 different questions to answer. One of their questions was, hey, people are out here saying that that like the Bible talks about that the Gentiles is a non-believing Israelite or non-believing Jew, and stuff like that. But Romans chapter 11 kind of nips that in the bud, right? Amongst other scriptures we can go to. But if you look at a Gentile as far as the bloodline, And if we bring in the book of Jasher to kind of help seal it, we don't really see that connection that people are making. So that one, I've got to get more reference point to even talk about it even further. I could go into detail about what we talked about in Jasher chapter 90. Matter of fact, it's on the YouTube channel. Just look up in our live sessions. Go type in the search engine for our live session. Who is Esau? And we should be able to get there. We should be able to get that pretty easily, right? So when it talks about that, I'm sorry, what now? You said shaking my head. So basically, you don't know what Gentile means? No, I basically told you that we literally have a 3-hour session, or excuse me, a 2-hour session, or who is a Gentile, who is Edom, who was Esau. And if you look at Jasher chapter 90, and if you know what those names mean and who those people come from, you'll be able to easily see how Esau can be mixed with the Gentiles, but the gens or the Gentiles are people. For example, Herod is a Gentile. He was not a non-believing Israelite. He was not matter of fact, not even Israelite. He was not a non-believing Jew, because not all Jews, or excuse me, not all Israelites are Jews. Every Jew is an Israelite, but not Israelites qualify as Jews, right? Because you know that difference, right? So if that's going to be the case, we have to get to a position in which we comprehend fully, right, that therefore the Gentiles, you're talking about Herod. Herod was not an Israelite, but he was a Gentile. So if Herod is not an Israelite, but he was a Gentile, then obviously you cannot saying that somebody is a non-believing Israelite and that's what makes them a Gentile doesn't make sense. So I know probably a little bit more than what you want to give me credit for. But once again, it's okay if you don't believe me. At the end of the day, my value or my knowledge doesn't come with your stamp of approval, right? And neither does yours, right? I don't have to approve what you say either. No, but if your whole goal is to be like, you don't know what you're talking about, or you ask the question, and if it doesn't match what kind of answer you want, then, here we go. You said, but Gentiles are non-Jews. I literally okay. At this point, you're just trying to be right. We actually agree on that. What's your problem with what I'm saying? Just in all honesty, like I don't even know which way to go. There's no hello. There's no we're brothers. There's no this and that. So could you help me out? What is it that you're telling me I don't know? Because you're agreeing with me, or are you just not? Am I not stating things clearly and in a connected fashion? It could be possible. Said Jacob is not a Jew? Sure, because he'd have to be of Judah. What is your point? So once again, you missed what I said, right? Esau's family lineage leads to the Gentile, right? Did you hear me say that? Maybe you didn't. Maybe you didn't catch what I said. So Esau's family lineage leads to the Gentile. So the only connection, I started talking about other things besides you because you're not the only person that makes comments on it, right? So Esau's family connection lead to the Gentiles. So the only connection, I said this earlier, the only connection we can even begin to say that puts Jacob and Esau together is to say that since some of Esau's family connects to the Gentiles over time, then that leads us to the place of saying that I guess you could say that they have some of the same DNA. And so there's some connectivity. Outside of that, we cannot say that they are one and the same. That's the second time I said it, right? So I'm not trying to be rude now at this point, but at this point, it feels like we're not even trying to have conversation. You're just trying to be like, oh, whatever. Right? So, but that was very clear. I hope it was clearer at that time. The only connectivity that we can even kind of sort of make between the two is that, yeah, okay, Jacob and Esau, were brothers. And therefore, if Esau is connected to the Gentiles and some Gentiles might have married into some Israelites or Judah or people of Judah or Jews, then maybe you can say that there's some connectivity. Outside of that, no. Gentiles, right? And that's a very slim possibility. And even if it happened, that's definitely not anywhere close to enough to where it actually is affecting things on the mass level that we would be thinking about. But anyways, praise God for you. I might just not be, able to show you personally what I'm talking about on that, right? But thank you for the question, even if I couldn't answer it. Sometimes I just fall short, and hopefully you forgive me for doing so. You said the Bible clearly states that Edomites are Africans in 2 Kings chapter 1. Okay. 2 Kings chapter 1 is the only place we're going to talk about. You got it. You're right. Right? You're not going to talk about Joshua chapter 90 at all? right? We're not going to talk about Ezekiel chapter 34 and 35 for context and relevance. We're not going to make sure that we realize that where one ends, the other begins. Second Esther chapter 6, verse 9 for more context, not just physical, but also spiritual. We're not going to talk about the E1B1A blood. And yes, so once again, Esau stretches to many others. Just because I said some of Esau can be mixed into the Gentiles doesn't mean that he can't be mixed into African blood. But you got it. So basically, so this is where I was going, and I appreciate you, right? Let me show you something real quick, and then you can win. Let me just show you something, though, because I don't care about winning. I don't care about being right, right? Right? I don't care about being right. I want to be righteous. So let me just give you this, because you're trying to go somewhere where I don't care to go. If you're saying that you know something I don't know, that's great. Right? That's always a possibility and a probability. I don't know everything, right? But this is what I'm saying as far as this, right? I think I basically made my point, but let me just say this, right? Your whole thing was, I'm going to ask a question. Do you know this? And then you just said, so you basically don't know. So you were faking like you don't know something, trying to ask a question, which, by the way, is an apologetic tool that you should use. Unfortunately, it looks like Dunning-Kruger effect when you add ad hominem to the problem, right? So your whole thing was, I'm going to ask a question. Then when I try to ask a question, or I'm going to make it, like, oh, okay, like you don't know what you're talking about. Somebody actually gives information that's relevant, but you say it's not where I was headed. I'm only headed towards focusing on Africans who are Edomites. And that means that Edomites cannot be anywhere else except this one group of people. That's like saying Israelites could not be anywhere else except these one group of people. Doesn't make sense, right? So, but anyways, right? And we're going to ignore that Edom, right? Edom lost to Canaan. Right, and Canaan ended up being servant to others, and we're going to deny that stuff too, right? We're just going to say only one place they can go because that's where you want, and that's fine. But what happens with that is now all we're doing is trying to fight. It could be, by the way, I'm not somebody who disagrees that there are Edomites that are African. Matter of fact, if somebody disagrees with that, they're just not learned. They're just not studied. I was talking specifically about somebody asking about Gentiles, right? If somebody's asking about Gentiles, then we have to admit that some of the Gentiles are mixed with Edomite, Esau, spirit, or else parts of the Bible, or maybe you don't believe in the parts of the Bible I'm talking about, but otherwise parts of the Bible's got to be crumbled up and thrown away. So if you think that it's not possible that both of us can be talking about the same thing and actually be right on viewpoints and they go together, and you have to win or I have to lose, well, then you won. No, you're not done. You can do whatever you want, right? I just don't see why one person has to win. You're not wrong. I'm not wrong. I don't even understand what that's about, but it is what it is. You got it, right? So yeah, so anyways, but yeah, so even that kind of thing, like we were talking about with the apostle, it's that whole thing of I've got more gifts than you. Right? It circles back. I tell people all the time they don't be believing me. I appreciate it when this happens because it just circled back to what we were talking about. I got more gifts than you. That's what that was. It was standing in the bathroom and having a P-word contest. And when I go to the restroom, I don't care if your stream is longer than mine. I just want to make sure that I expel waste. So if you came in there and you were standing at the wall against the wall trying to make sure your urine made it into the urinal and you were looking at me, I don't want to even see your stuff, bro. I'm probably gonna leave the restroom. If I got to use it bad enough, I guess I'll just stand up next to it like I'm supposed to because I don't want you to see my stuff anyway. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? So if I'm walking to a situation, so you came into a restroom, you saw me using the urinal, and then you basically like were trying to prod me into a thing, and you kept waiting for me to step back from the urinal. Like if you want to win next competition, you can go ahead and win. You know, it just doesn't make sense. But that's we were talking about that this rising. People are more concerned about listen to me. I know this. I know that. Like literally, what he was saying. If you guys notice, I was trying to get him to see what he was saying. I agree with what he was saying. He asked a question about the Gentiles, and then he liked that I said that Edom could actually be connected to the Gentiles. right? And I also was answering at the same time something where people have this new thing that's been popping up saying the Gentiles are actually non-believing Israelites, which your Bible does not support, right? The person who was showing me, I went to Romans chapter 11 and said, hey, let's look at Romans 11 and let's see something in there about these branches and those who are jealous and stuff like that. And let's see if it is possible that what Yah's saying is going to be something that's going to deal with the branches that are already cut off versus those that are being grafted in, because people heard me say graft in, and now what people are starting to say is, oh, well, the only people that can be grafted in are Israelites. No, that's not true at all, because by the way, it not only talks about Gentiles, but it talks about Greeks as well. You don't want to talk about that. So then where do the Greeks fall in? Are you going to tell me that the Greeks are Israelites too? Because Greeks are talked about as people who can go ahead and get salvation as well, but they have to bow down to the law as well, right? So you see what I'm saying? It's like this attitude of I am more gifted, and to the point to where if you're not careful, you think you're more gifted than Yah. Better be careful. How you doing, R. Gray? You hear what I'm saying? Like, y'all better be careful. Right? Y'all better be careful if it's only about I got this or I'm be able to, like at the end of the day, he was actually correct, but he was more concerned about being the only one to be correct. Like at the end of the day, both our righteousness as filthy rags. Are we going to be more correct than Yahweh? If not, if the answer is no, then what's the point of the rest of the conversation? What was the point of that? Right? He got us back on track. In all honesty, I was just trying to answer questions, but he took us right back to the subject matter. So I'm thankful for it, and I rejoice. Hallelujah. Right? But that was an exercise in futility on both sides, right? I kind of went down that road too, so for that I apologize to you. Hopefully, I still was a pretty decent example. I didn't go too bad or something like that. But that was the whole thing of like, for what? Like at the end of the day, we actually were saying the same thing. Outside of, I guess he doesn't think that Gentiles can be, but he's if you look it up, he's actually right. There's Africans that come from Edom, right, or Esau, and there's Gentiles that come from Esau, right? What I was actually going to talk about today, for real, earlier was the fact that I had two Mormons that were only 19. So I give them credit for believing what they believe in and being willing to go out two by two. But they were 19 years of age and they came. I had seen them in a neighborhood that I was in, not realizing they were the same ones. And they came and they were gonna knock on the door, and I had just finished doing about 4 or 5 phone calls straight. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let them somebody else deal with them. I was like, you know what? Like I'm the spiritual head here. Let me get out and talk to them. And it was kind of the same thing. There was a guy who was of another diaspora and a guy of our diaspora. And of course, what normally happens is when you talk to people and you start giving them the truth, the guy who's not of our diaspora actually started listening to me. I'm like, oh, okay. And the other guy was really upset and mad, right? And he was so mad because I was just hitting him with fact after fact over the head, boom, 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 right? It was kind of like normally, like I don't even know normally, I might even kind of just kind of shoo him away from the house on a day like today where we need to get stuff done. However, and after I was tired, for real, but how can I just finish doing a whole session on how to defend how to defend our faith, and then these guys come and I don't talk to them, right? So I had a conversation with him, whatever, and so the guy starts off the conversation, right, to show you where the conversation pretty much went. I was really nice to him at first. I said, hey, I used to be a Jehovah's Witness. I know what it is to be somebody coming up to knock on doors and people won't answer the door, yada, yada, yada. I appreciate your faith, because I knew at some point we're going to go in. And so he says, well, where does and all this knowledge and stuff that you're talking about, because I had gone through a lot of stuff in 5 minutes in our Discord. And so he eventually says, well, with all knowledge that you have you ever read the Book of Mormon? I said, yeah. It's probably been like 22 years since I've actually gone over it, though, so I'm not going to pretend like I know what's going on with it. I don't want to assume that you have the same belief system as what I'm about to talk about. And he said, well, where is your knowledge of the Book of Mormon started? I said, Joseph Smith. Why? Because Joseph Smith is the beginning of the Book of Mormon. He penned it, supposedly. Some would say he couldn't even read or write, but I don't know if that's necessarily the case, but he definitely penned it, or he's definitely responsible for the words that went into it. And the guy says, no, that's not right. And so he starts to talk about, who is it? They don't say Eli. They don't say Levi. They say Lehi. They say there's this guy named Lehi who had this family who came from one of the places where we were scattered from. And that's how, and by the way, when people keep saying, oh no, Israel was actually in America, it was in Utah and this and that and blah, blah. No. Joseph Smith told you guys that. And he said there was a guy named Lehi who made it over here. And he told you that people found artifacts, which nobody's ever found. But he said people found artifacts to prove that these people were over there. And we're going through all this stuff or whatever. And so finally, I just start telling the person about, I know about being white and lonesome. I know about the Mormon Jesus. I know about those who fall on the devil's side who have no bodies. I know about people of color who are supposed to be cowards. I know about Elohim, who you call Elohim, and Elohim's supposed to be somebody who had many spirit babies, and he was once an alien who became a god, and so he's not actually the Elohim of the universe, but he's a god over the earth, and all this and yada yada yada, and everybody, I know about all these things, right? And I'm telling them so. The guy of our diaspora, young guy, young lion, 19-year-old. He's young lion, but they doesn't quite have what he needs. He's getting really irritated with me. He's showing the posture that he's ready to fight me. When people stand towards you and they're trying to be respectful, but at the same time you can tell, actually, matter of fact, at one point I had to change my stance and he backed up a little bit because he was getting a little too close for comfort. Right. The other guy was okay. And I'm just giving truth. I'm not being mean. I'm not being angry. I'm not deterred. But I'm speaking on. For real. I was going in like it was a live session. I would let them talk some, but then I was like, look, y'all came to see me. Y'all gonna learn today, right? And the Holy Spirit told me today is about planting the seed. I wasn't worried about changing anybody's heart doing it. I'm just planting the seed. So I kept hitting certain terms, getting him certain things. So he goes into this place where I'm trying to show him something, and so this is what he does. He goes. Yeah, my wife was very amused. She was laughing. So he goes to this place where he says, well, it's very clear that you know the Bible better than we do, right? Like, this is how he hits me. Like, he's tired of listening to me tell him fact of the fact, truth of the truth, telling them that I know before they were born that Black people weren't even allowed in certain places in Mormon temples. I told them that I'm actually familiar with certain Mormon temples where they actually help people to learn who they are because they know the names of slaves and stuff and where they came from and stuff like that, showing that the Mormon church is more involved in slavery and stuff like that than what you want to talk about. And so he finally is happy because he looks like us. And so what I'm telling him is everything he stands for is something that makes him, I didn't use this terminology, but now that I think about it, I'm probably calling him a traitor to his face. And he probably got tired of it. And I can see that. Right? Yeah, I told him exactly what they believed in. And he probably got tired of it because he don't know. He's 19. He's an elder, but he's 19. Right? He a little boy. He didn't know. Yeah, and we respect Mormons' efforts to spread their belief. Like I was saying earlier, I respect their beliefs and their ability to spread it, right? So I told him I like his heart and everything, but he just goes, you know what? You know the Bible. We run into a lot of people just like you who know the Bible better than we do. And at the end of the day, I've read that book. I know this book. This book is something that I believe in, and I believe in it because Joseph Smith meant every word that he said. And he's going on and on, right? And he's mad. And so I'm letting them, I'm letting them vent a little bit. I know that I've gotten his mind, I put a bunch of stuff in there, his mind probably full to bursting, right? So then after I let it vent and steam a little bit, next thing I say to him is, I say, okay, so you know that book, right? He said, yeah, I know that book. I said, okay. I said, how many presidents are there? You already know where I'm going, right? He said, 45, 46, right? To his friend that's next to 45, 46. I said, you know that, right? He said, yes. I said, well, then you don't know because there's more than 46 presidents. I was like, there's 8 that came before. Then we could look at George Washington to see that he had 2 of them that he wrote down as his favorite before he even became president, meaning that George Washington cannot be your first president. I said, now if we want to talk about how the Moors, through Morocco, a Moorish sultan, had to allow America to do business with them so that they could become a sovereign nation, then yes, let's have that conversation. But I said, with that being said, right, and then I even went into the United States. The United States is not a country, it's a corporation. I said, that's by United States code. That's by law. right? And I even told him about Washington, D.C., and where that comes from, the Osiris Isis Heru thing repackaged to be Washington District of Columbia. So I give him all the stuff, and then I said, so look, at the end of the day, that's why I told you guys this is contextual, right? This is about culture. This is why we have to be accurate about the origins of these things, not how we feel about it, and not just saying we know about it. I said, I'm glad that you guys go and tell people about the Lord Jesus Christ. I know his name is not Jesus, but at the end of the day, I'm glad that at least somebody's out here trying to give some kind of word and hope. So praise Yah that you're on a path that at least has righteous intent. I said, however, and then I looked at the guy from our diaspora who had the attitude. I looked him straight in the eye. I said, however, my people perish for a lack of knowledge. And it's not because knowledge has been given to you, it's because it has been rejected. And if you're not careful, because you reject the knowledge, you reject the Most High. When you reject him, he will reject you to the third and fourth generation. And then he backed up a little bit, right? And all I'm trying to do is plant a seed. And they both left. They were both respectful. And they listened to this old man talk to him for 30 minutes. And they probably only talked about 8-9 minutes. If that, to be honest with you. I told you I treated like I try to make sure that I let them in, but hey, you come, I know how this works. I used to go door to door. You come into my door, you ready to get the business. See, everybody else, they don't know this stuff. They don't study their word. They don't open their books. So you came to the right person today. I didn't shoo you away. I didn't treat you mean. I didn't say get off my property. I had conversation with you, but you gonna learn today. And what I was trying to do is plant a seed. And I told my wife, who knows? Now the guy who was not of our diaspora, he was listening. He was like, he was even going like, man, you know what? Maybe we can set up some time to study or something like that. And a lot of times I've talked to them before where they say that because they're trying to get me to change. But he was actually kind of like, no, like maybe we should come back. And like he said, I don't know if he gonna come back, but I'll come back. I said, we'll see. I said, we're gonna be on the road and stuff like that. But you know, the other guy was over there asking, but I was there planting the seed. You said you bet they wish I did you away. Maybe. Right. But I'm just trying to say, you know, and so if somebody comes against, and I'm saying all that to say this, like the guy was trying to get into this and that, well, I'm better than you because I read the Book of Mormon, blah, blah. I told them both. I said, I'm not better than either one of you. But I said, I know some things that take me to a higher level, and I'm not going to settle for having lack of knowledge. How you doing, Brother Ali? Right. And it's the same thing. We're here we are. It's proof tonight. We're fighting over stuff. And what's the point of the fighting, yo? What's the point of the fighting? Right? If you really say that you serve, and I told him straight up, I said the thing that's going to stop this at a certain point is that we're going to have a context discussion. You're not going to like it when I get to the contextual discussion, because if I'm going to talk about context, then we have to talk about who Joseph Smith was. Whether you say you believe in what he believed in, I even told him like this. If you say that you believe in the Book of Mormon, but you don't believe in what Joseph Smith did, fine. Thank you for changing. I said, however, the problem is that means you have to change. If you say that what he's written has changed from what they did and how they acted, and even what men and women and boys and girls and slaves and all these people and natives ended up saying about Joseph Smith, and even some, I didn't even go to this level to tell them, but you know, Joseph Smith was killed by his followers. Right? He wasn't just he was murdered, excuse me. He was offed by his followers. And so I was like, if you're going to change what he was doing then and say that it's not the same thing today, I said, well, then what makes that book infallible? If what he was preaching back then doesn't work and you deny what your prophet says, then why would I think that anything your prophet wrote is valuable? They really didn't like that. But it's the truth. It's not my truth, it's the truth. You see? And so that's what I'm saying, right? But even the guy, when I was trying to even make it, hey, look, I'm not saying we can both be right, but least I can say is, hey, thank you for going by door 2 by 2. But also, you know, like we got to be honest about context. If you're trying to tell me that, right? Because then when he hit me, he got mad then too. He was like, well, you know what? I've read this book. I'm telling you, I've read this book. I was like, well, I've read the Bible. And we got to toss out pieces of the Bible to make that book work. And he said, that's not what I said. I said, you're absolutely right. That's not what came out your mouth. But I just literally gave him a bunch of stuff. I was like, First Corinthians or Revelation chapter 2 says this, Revelation chapter 1 says this, Revelation chapter 3 says this. It says it's about Samson. It says it's about this. It says it's about this group. I think I mentioned Second Esdras chapter 13. This says this. This says this. I was like, how many things are we going to throw away to make that book fit? Because you won't even look up some of the stuff that I told you to look up to see that you don't know everything you think you know. I'm not saying you can't be right about anything. I'm saying that there might be something that you might want to add to it to make it whole or holy. And that's one of the things that we have, a problem that we have. People are going off of stuff. Matter of fact, can I say something real quick? Be careful. That's why I say this all the time. Read your Bible. It will bless you. Right. And I always tell you that means make sure you know the context and you know the culture. How many people are out here teaching that Yahashua HaMashiach, right, the Messiah, was born from Joseph, right? He's Joseph's seed because Mary Mary wasn't of the tribe of Judah. So therefore, he had to come from David, not realizing, right? Not realizing that just because of that, it doesn't mean, like, you don't know how adoption works in our culture. Once you are betrothed to somebody, that means you are adopted into the family. So Mary, you look at bloodline only by DNA, and that's a very Eurocentric way of looking at it. Bloodline is just talking about this is your mama, this is your daddy, and out of that, this was your mama, this was your daddy, and out of that, this is your mama. And I know because we're so isolated away from our sisters, right? That we use the world's patriarchal system and not how our patriarchy works. Our patriarchy has no problem being like, yeah, Sarah and Abraham come from. Yeah, Isaac and Rebecca come from, right? Yes, Jacob and Leah or Rebecca or Milpah or Zilpah come from, right? Because you don't recognize the adoption. Moses and Zipporah came from. If you want Noah's wife's name, look in the book of Jasher. Just because it's not mentioned in Genesis doesn't mean it's not mentioned, right? That's on us for having this weird comprehension of trying to think like our oppressor. Yeah, when you're adopted, you become part of the family. Matter of fact, every family member still has to be adopted into a position. Right? Reuben is the firstborn, but Judah is always mentioned before everybody else. Why? Because Judah was adopted spiritually into a certain position that others are not. So Judah always comes first. That's why Yehoshua came out of Judah. And if he's going to be the line of the tribe of Judah, even read Revelation chapter 7 when you get a chance. And it starts talking about the 12 branches that must be sealed. Right? The first branch is Judah. Judah is the fourth born, but he's the first branch. Then Reuben, whose first one is mentioned second. In your mind, you would think no, because Reuben's born first, but that's not automatically how it works. Just because you're born into something doesn't mean that Yehovah or Yehoshua might not say that I adopt somebody into a certain position. This is one of the reasons why it says not all Israel is Israel, not just because of your unbelief, but some of you, right, are not worthy of being adopted into the family until you get yourself together. You think that just because you're an Israelite by blood means that you're an Israelite by right, right? But even if you have a right, you have to qualify, and you have to follow laws, because laws protect your rights. So you're busy talking about your rights, but what is a request or a prayer or a petition? A petition is a request or a demand made upon a government based off of your constitutional right. So some of the Israelites are some of the worst offenders and don't have the constitutional right to ask what they're asking for, because you guys can talk all this stuff about how everybody else is trash, but you can't follow law yourself. Can't be husband to one wife, but you out here trying to make sure that everybody understands it's going to be 7-1. As if that didn't already happen in the story of mankind. In our story, 7-1 already happened. And it was, and by the way, even if you believe 7-1 is going to happen, can I just say this real quick for those of y'all who even know what I'm talking about with 7-1? Even if you believe that 7-1 is going to happen, do you know that that's not because it's Yah's will? It's because of disobedience. If we ever get to a point to where there's one man for every 7 women, or 7 women for every man, Yah says that comes from disobedience. He didn't say that's what he wants. He didn't say that's what women deserve. If you ever get to a 7-1 thing, it's because you messed up. Do you hear what I'm saying? If you get to an area, hear my words. This is why we have to say woe to these fake preachers out here. If we ever get to a place to where it's 7-1, it's because you have been disobedient. No, it's because the white man has locked us up and killed us off and stuff like that. I've been watching y'all kill each other off with your tongue. Y'all can't wait to knock down somebody so you can say I'm the person who knocked down the person. But then you talk bad about your enemy when they do that to you. If you get to a point where it's 7-1, it's because you messed up. I'm not saying that nobody else made money off of your being enslaved, right? Psalm 123 verse 4, we talked about Psalm 123 verses 3 and 4 technically, but Psalm 123 verse 4 told us that there are people who exploit us and they are comfortable with our scorning, they're at ease with it, right? And they are like to make sure because they're proud to be able to say that they put us down. We talked about that. I'm not saying that there's nobody that's making anything up, but there comes a certain point where this is on you, bro. This is on you, sis. How many times you gonna make your sister look bad? How many times you gonna emasculate your brother? But you got that apostle spirit that you're more gifted than God himself. You're more gifted than Elohim. You're more gifted than Yah. So who can tell you anything to help you? Who can tell you anything that would help your sister to feel more involved? How you doing, Rissa? Who's going to help you? Who's going to help us? Who's going to keep you? Who's going to hold you accountable when nobody can hold you accountable? Not even the Most High. His word can't even hold you accountable. That's when it gets dangerous. You mean the Most High's word can't even hold you accountable? You don't even bow down to that? You don't even be quiet enough to hear what the Spirit has to say to the assembly? You don't respect the fact that Yahshua said that he will take your candlelight and snuff it out and remove you from his presence? You got to change the word to make sure that you're right no matter what. You got to change the word to make sure you're right no matter what. And have your name taken out the book of life and have the plagues added unto thee. And you keep seeing your people be plagued, but you can't stop it enough long enough. Yeah, it's a death sentence. And not just a death sentence, but even the second death. That hellfire upon it, that eternal separation from Yah. That same apostle spirit. Yeah. I see you, Sister Nadine, exactly. Shalom, Leah. So, it's very interesting that like we are so into attacking each other, and then we're so busy trying to blame everybody else for our self-attack. Even the curses you talk about in Deuteronomy chapter 28, when you start at verse 54, it says that, yeah, you have been under siege and your enemy has it to where you don't have much left. So what does it say that you can tell that you're still under siege? What does it say to tell you that you still think that you're better, that you don't need to listen, that you're not going to be obedient? Before you even deal with your family, first thing it says is that because you are tender, that means you're unprepared, you're also beat up on, right? If somebody beats you so much, you're tender. But also to be tender is to be unprepared. Solomon in the Bible, King Solomon, is spoken of as being tender or unprepared. And that's why David said, even though David wasn't allowed to build the temple, he began to get some of the material. Now we know, if you look at Flavius Josephus' teachings and writings and history about us, you'll also know that David got material from other people. But David basically gets the ball rolling because he wants to build the temple, but Yahweh said he had too much blood on his hands. And so he said, well, my son is tender. He's not prepared. He's not ready. So I will get the materials ready, even though I won't be the one to build the temple. My son will. So he started building the material, right? That's what a great father does, as he starts putting stuff down so that his son can build upon the legacy. So even though Solomon built the temple, David left the material, right? So in essence, Solomon built what his father left. That's a word within itself for somebody, right? So, but then it says, after you're tender and unprepared, right? It says, then these people became delicate. So when you're tender long enough, you're unprepared long enough, the least thing sets you off. You're delicate. And what does it say now? Deuteronomy 28, verse 54, it says, therefore, the first thing that the tender, the unprepared, and the delicate, the sensitive brother started doing, first thing he started doing was looking at his own brother, it says. Why he think he noticed. This is what happened when Yahshua came back to his own people, to his own city, you remember? And he did the same, he preached the same message and wanted to give the same miracles he gave another, but he didn't give one miracle that day when he came to a city. Why? Why? He said a prophet is not honored, right? Except in his own city, in his own people, in his own house. Why was, right? So, and what happened? It said he finished preaching the word, and his family, his brothers, his sisters, his family, his community group, who he thought was going to be there with him, it said that they had no problem with what he preached. Matter of fact, it said they were astounded, they were stupefied by what he preached. They were amazed. Wow, did you hear that? What he said? But then it said after that, it said they started questioning not whether what he said was right or not. They said, what makes it that he can have this knowledge and we cannot? Now remember, Israel at the time is what? They're under siege. The men are what? They're tender. They're delicate now. So something that should have been able to bless them, now they're very sensitive. And they say, hey, wait a minute. As Deuteronomy 20, verse 54 says, they start turning towards their brother. They say, wait a minute. What makes him, well, why does he get this knowledge and I don't? They never question whether it was correct or not. They're just like, why he got it? Why did he get it? What makes him better than me? What makes him think he all that? What gets her more views? What gets him a better house? What makes him be able to, I don't know, whatever your beef is, ride in that car, whatever. Yeah, you start breaking commandments, coveting. Because you're tender, you're unprepared, and you're delicate. Anything sets you off. So they will go against their own brother first. Then Deuteronomy 20, verse 54 says, and then they'll go against the wife of their own bosom. The woman that lays in your chest, at least should. Now you go against her too. And then it says the only thing left is your children. And it describes the way you treat them almost as if you are cannibalizing them. You're eating them up to where they'll have nothing left. So when they get older, they'll just be more bitter versions of you. You get whatever you can out of it, and then you roll out. We all do the same thing. So let us not be like this apostle in his spirit, where he said that he is more gifted than God. And God knows it. I see how he can get to that place. I can see how some of us would even try to agree with it. Right? But hopefully you see that it can't be correct. It's not righteous. Not at all. That being said, thank you all. I appreciate you. I got to get in here, pack, and unpack some of the stuff that's in here, then pack up, make sure that we're ready to go. And we'll be on the road for a few days. We're asking for your prayers. Hopefully we'll see some of you in the middle of Georgia tomorrow. If you need the information, once again, let us know. I'll probably tell you at the end of tomorrow's live session. I'll probably make it public. So if you want to know for sure where we're headed, we'll try to make sure that we let you know that maybe at the end of the live session tomorrow. We might even do some live stuff at the meetup. Who knows? Depends on what we're talking about. If we're talking about something that ends up being pretty great conversation, maybe we'll set up and y'all can join in. Maybe we'll put it on, record it on Patreon or something like that, right? But we appreciate y'all. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow. So tomorrow's Shabbat looks as follows for us: 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. And Shabbat Shalom to everybody. It is Shabbat as far as the Gregorian calendar. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Our Shabbat tomorrow goes as follows: 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. We will be live on Kofi_43. 10 a.m. Eastern New York time. Minister Shante will be live on the Kofi 40 podcast for our Shabbat Shalom service. 11 a.m. Eastern New York time. We will have the stuff for our children. And then at 2 p.m. Eastern, we'll have the meetup for everybody in Georgia. And as a reminder, everybody just bring your own food. All right. I'll try to make sure I might have some stuff, maybe some fruits and vegetables, depending on when I can get on the road and stuff. So I'll definitely have some water for everybody. Outside of that, though, just be prepared. You might have to have some stuff, but I'll try to make sure we have some fruits and veggies if I can. All right. So thank you all. We appreciate you. We hope to see you guys there tomorrow. We hope you're safe once again tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern New York time. Oh, well, let me add something else on there too. 8 a.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow. Regular live session, 10 a.m. Eastern New York time, podcast, Minister Shante teaching for Shabbat Shalom service, 11 a.m. Eastern New York time, Shabbat Bit Safer for the children, 2 p.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow, the meetup around 2 p.m. That's our goal, is to meet up 2 p.m. Eastern New York time. And if it rains, we should have some canopies and stuff to be under. If for some reason we cannot get the canopies, we'll at least make sure we all meet up in the same place, and then we'll go somewhere near where we can all be inside. So either way, the meetup will still be there, whether it rains or not. That's where we will meet up at. And then also on um, Sunday in the Rising, so at 7 a.m. Eastern New York time, ministerial staff, we will be doing a prayer service. We'll be back on track for that. All right. Okay. So I just wanted to make those things known. Thank you again. Appreciate you guys. We will talk to you. Praying for your safety on travels on the road. Pray for ours as well. And pray for us. Hopefully, at the beginning of next week, we'll have some great news, especially for those of us who are YLP 83. Specifically, we'll make sure that you guys get first news and stuff like that. We'll try to set up a meeting at some point for everybody, the people that are kind of in the not inner circle, but are kind of like doing the behind the scenes work and coming together for stuff. We'll try to make sure that you guys see some of the stuff, and then we'll make sure everybody YLP 83, and then we'll probably have a few pictures we can share with everybody else as well. All right. So we thank you. We appreciate you. We honor you. We are excited. Don't forget that September 29th is fast approaching. Thank you guys who've given your donations. We've been receiving more and more. Thank you for those of you who said that you're willing to look out for somebody else. We do have one person or one group that's looking at coming. So one of you guys who said that you're willing to step up and help out, we'll probably be asking you for some stuff soon. But yeah, we're going to be having more meetings starting with that group, the group putting it together in the ministerial staff. We'll be having more meetings starting in July, whatever the fourth Saturday of July is. At this point, I'm off. So what'll be 1st, 8th, 15th? So July 22nd. Starting July 22nd, we're going to start having more meetings every other Saturday leading up to September 29th. All right. So we'll have a lot more information coming. Thank you all again. We appreciate you. We honor you. Hopefully you guys have a great night. Thank you for tuning in. Be safe out there. To our truckers, we got a lot of truckers out there too. Y'all be safe. Also too, if you're looking at different things as far as different companies, once again, we have a brother and a sister, the same brother and sister that got married, and we've been putting their pictures out. We'll have a video hopefully for you guys pretty soon that you can watch and see how the ceremony went. They would like for you guys to see it. So we have a version that's a public version for you guys. But yeah, if you're willing and able, we'd like to be able to make sure that we share that with you. But also those of you who are interested, if you're truckers or some of you said you're looking for jobs and possibly looking to be in a trucker, they can help you with driving, and ultimately even just helping you to get your CDL and stuff like that, where you don't have to pay anywhere close to the amount of money that a lot of people try to make you pay. Some places they'll send you there for free, but a lot of places they still make you pay a pretty hefty fee. So they'll work with you on that, try to get that stuff together for you. So just want to put that out there amongst many other businesses that you'll know that we try to support. I keep saying over and over again, at a certain point, SOC, we got a whole bunch of stuff within us. We don't have to worry about everybody else to do, right? But thank y'all. Appreciate you. We honor you. And we hope that you guys take care. Thank you again for being on. We appreciate you. Please check out my wife as always. First of all, we give our praise and honor to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Also, Brother Jermaine, somebody had contacted me about making sure that they got in contact with you about shirts, and was wondering about if you had the website and stuff together. If you need help with it, let me know. We'll talk some stuff through, okay, to at least get you started to make it easier. But you should be getting some contact about some shirts if you didn't get to already, okay, from one of our brothers who looks like they're probably going to sew in pretty well. So just wanted to give you a heads up about that. But thank you, guys. We appreciate you. We honor you. And we're thankful and grateful to you. Continue to support the kingdom, support one another, and to show love to one another. Hopefully you're still calling each other, meeting up with each other. And until I have the chance to be before you guys again tomorrow, Shabbat Shalom. This has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember as always, just allow that you are loved, you are necessary, you're majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom, family. Peace.